Paris, it's such a pleasure having you today. Thank you for being with us.
My pleasure, Martin.
Listen, Paris, I know you had COVID-19 a couple of weeks ago. First of all, how are you feeling now and how was that experience?
Let me tell you, this was not the flu. I think it was March 17th, I started to get a fever and I knew that something was going on. And then next thing you know, the doctor comes to see me and I had about 38, 39. It's for 2.5 weeks. I would say I was very lucky because I never had a breathing problem. So I never had to go to the hospital. The doctor came to see me about 5 times. And I can say that over those 2.5 weeks, I had fever every other day that was pretty high. The body pains were the worst. I only took paracetamol because they said that ibuprofen wasn't good for it. So paracetamol controlled my fever, but there was nothing that could stop the headaches sometimes and the body pains. That's what I think was the worst. It was like bone pains in your legs everywhere. And I would say that about probably half the nights I couldn't really sleep. But I still feel fortunate that I never had a breathing problem, never had any cough either.
We're very glad, and I'm very glad that obviously you're feeling much, much better. So much of your research actually has to do with people relationships, with uncertainty, both obviously professionally and at a personal level. How has Corona affected now your thinking?
Well, it's interesting. My research has to do with separating people's relationship from the personal and the professional. So I look at people's level of comfort with uncertainty at a personal level and a professional level. Like take me, for instance, when I was 22, I was pretty introverted and a nerd at a personal level. And also professionally, I was a programmer. I hated uncertainty. Well, what my research did was actually study people. I did my PhD on this, and I studied people for the last 7 years. We've studied about 15,000 people. And it's interesting. And if you look at this in terms of a scale, it's what we call the PW index. You have P1, which is total, you love certainty, out to P4 when you love uncertainty in your personal life. And then you got W1 at work and W1, at work and W4 at work when you love uncertainty. So what we found is that 80% of the people that had opportunity in uncertainty, all these people that were really entrepreneurial, think out of the box, successful businessmen, 80% of them were P1, P2s in their personal life. They were nerdy. And it makes sense because, what do we look for in our lives? A balance, right? A lot of people look for a balance, they look for equilibrium. So I've been doing this work now for a long time, and it just validates itself that this is the reality for most people. And I say to myself, I'm a W4 now. I travel all over the world. If you tell me, Paris, do you want to do a master class in Kazakhstan? I'm like, what time do I leave? But in my personal life, it's like that story about the dog that barks, doesn't bite. In my personal life, I'm not a P1 anymore. I'm a P2. I put up with a little more uncertainty, but not a lot. I like, hanging out in my lazy boy, big 60-inch flat screen and, relaxing. I don't like going out that much because professionally I go crazy. Back to your question, what I'm finding with students is amazing, is that a lot of these students that loved a lot of uncertainty in their personal lives, they're like, seeking out certainty in their personal lives now under this quarantine more than ever before, So I think we're going to get, when we leave post COVID-19, I think it's going to be good because in one sense, we're going to be much more comfortable with uncertainty, which is what we've been training our students for a long time. But at a personal level, we're going to look for meaning in ourselves more than anywhere else. And that balance, I think, is strong because, as I said, most of the successful entrepreneurs, look at Steve Jobs. What was he? He was a P1 W4. He didn't not only not like uncertainty, he denied it in his personal life. Mark Zuckerberg, people like Richard Branson. And then you got people like Elon Musk who are like P4W4s. But that's not a lot of the people. Most people are not like that. So I think this dichotomy of the personal and the professional is going to be even more important as we come out of COVID-19.
So you're absolutely right. I'm like, given the current circumstances, being low on the P scale might be actually advantageous if you're anyway locked into your house. So it might be a good thing. Dominic, you already mentioned a little bit in class, and you obviously mentioned already a couple of times IE Business School. And I was wondering, how would you see does Corona actually affect the demand and to some extent as well the delivery of entrepreneurship courses and electives across the business school today?
Well, it's been amazing to see the reaction, during this Corona time. We have now, and I think we mentioned this, I talked to you about this the other day, we have now more people doing startup projects in IE than ever before. It's just been amazing how many people have joined the Venture Lab from the undergraduate school, from MIMS, from HST. We have over 90 teams now that have joined, Venture Lab to start an idea and try to work on it, even though we're in a situation where, we're always telling our people, get out of the building and validate your ideas, right? Well, this is not like the best time to do that. So, but still, people are like, I want to come up with something different. A lot of social impact projects. It's just amazing to see the reaction of the people in terms of, wanting to do things in entrepreneurship. And again, back to the last thing we were talking about, I think that's amazingly powerful, because what do entrepreneurs see in uncertainty? Opportunity. And I think more and more of our students are seeing that experience in entrepreneurship is going to be very useful to them when they come out of this whole thing. I think I mentioned to you one time that Amazon, they get about 80 CVs from IE every year. And I met with one of their recruiters, and she said to me, we put the IE CVs into two piles, those with startup experience and those without. And for them, startup experience is, everything from, having founded a startup or working in a startup or volunteering in a startup. And I asked her why, and she said, because we want people that are adaptable, that, can deal with conditions of extreme uncertainty. That's what we look for in our students, in our new employees. And I think our students are going to be much better prepared. And I think, as a school, I mean, the founder of the school, the alcalde, Diego, and his son, they've been obsessed with the idea of putting humanities into our curriculum. Our president, Santiago Íñiguez, and yourself, you guys have, over the last 10 years, made a point of not wanting to mimic those business schools that were like, math, statistics, all that kind of thing. And you've incorporated so much humanities in that critical thinking, those values of, inclusiveness, of diversity, all those things help us grow our comfort with uncertainty.
Let me follow up on something that you said. You said, well, Amazon, what they do is with all the CVs, they basically put them in two piles, right? I mean, the one with startup experience and those who don't. Sometimes when you talk as well about students, you talk about average students and great students. And in a couple of posts or in a couple of talks, you actually mentioned as well that you believe that post-corona, that this gap between average and great students is going to be larger than ever before. What do you actually mean by that?
We got a lot of things at play here. One is the economic reality. The economic reality is that, whether it's Europe or the US, you're looking at economies that next year are going to be anywhere from 5 to 10%. Not growth, but, decrease in size. That means there's going to be a lot less jobs. So the competition for people is going to be even fiercer. But then again, and we're going to do an interview in a couple of weeks on this. Not only is the competition going to be fiercer than ever before, but I've been talking to companies over the last few weeks, And the profile of people that they're going to be looking for is going to be different. I mean, we've been in a world where for the last 5 years, all the consulting companies have been making a fortune on digital transformation because every company needed digital transformation. But everybody struggled with digital transformation. Well, today, who's leading digital transformation? Corona is, right? And this is like being hit by a truck. Every company is like, oh my God, how do I now transform like in a hurry? And how do I get my people to transform? And if I'm hiring, I want people to help me transform. So the digital divide is going to be enormous, not just with companies. I've been talking to some CEOs, and you got two types of CEOs out there right now. You've got those CEOs that are saying, oh my God, all I got to do is now cut costs because my revenues have disappeared. And you have the other CEOs that are saying, our revenues are down. How do I get my people to work better under these conditions? That's the digital divide that you're seeing right now. Well, that's on the company side. On the people side, it's the same. On the people side, you've got a situation where, post-corona, the haves and the have-not gap is going to be bigger, unfortunately. And the knowledge worker and the non-knowledge worker gap. And in today's world, knowledge worker means digital mindset. And that's why I think, we're in a unique situation here where people either, hide under their beds over this whole thing, or they really reinvent themselves and in a hurry and take advantage of this as an opportunity to then differentiate themselves when they're going out into the market.
So Paris, you said, obviously, our graduates will be facing a very challenging time once they graduate. But at the same time, you have been stressing as well that our 2020 cohort has a unique opportunity to excel during, obviously, this pandemic and beyond. So what do you mean by that?
Yeah. And I know this is a difficult message to give to our current cohort because, part of the IE experience, no doubt, is the Madrid experience. And that's what makes us very unique. But at the same time, I think more and more of them are realizing that they have a unique opportunity. And let me give you an example. I had a conversation the other day with a student that said to me, I'm taking a year off. I've asked the school to do a baja. I'm going to go back and do something else and then come back and do my master's next year. And I said to him, I think that's such a terrible mistake because what are you going to go do for the next 6 to 12 months? I mean, if you told me that we were in, booming times and you were going to get an internship at Goldman Sachs or McKinsey or something, and that you were going to grow, but you're not going to be growing for these 6 to 12 months, this gap year that you're taking. You're probably going to be under quarantine, watching videos on your phone. And now then, when you finish doing that for a year, you're going to decide to come back. So, I've had this conversation with several people, and I think one of them I convinced to change his mind. But there, to answer your question, yes, our cohort is unique because, a lot of people have been struggling with this thing about online education and doing work online. But the reality today is unless you learn to pitch online, persuade online, you're going to have a problem when this is all over because we're not going to go back to 100% face-to-face for a long time. Our future is blended. And, this cohort is not only lucky, I think, in one sense, to be living through this age, because they are now going to become better prepared because they're going to have to get comfortable with the uncomfortable. But they've also got this school, which is probably one of the most better prepared schools in the world in terms of blended education and online education. And like I say to people, they're telling me, oh yeah, but the technology is the most important thing. No, it's not the technology. Teaching online. And that's why when our students get online education, they don't get those secondhand professors or second-tier professors that are the only ones that are willing to teach online. We've had our professors, get used to this for a long time. I've been teaching at IE online for the last 8 years. And I think our students, get a unique opportunity here to really become these kick-ass students that will stand out, when they go out into the market, whether this August or September, or those that graduate in December and January. I think our students have a unique opportunity if they take this opportunity to really digitally transform themselves and become part of that group of people that's going to, excel in the new environment.
I couldn't agree more. I truly believe as well that we're not going to go back to the normal that we knew before, right? Like the world is going to be completely, incredibly different. And as a consequence, better get ready for that, get prepared for that. And now it's a great training ground. Paris, any parting thought to our students and alumni?
I've always, and you've heard me say this in so many graduations, that you got to, life's too short to be a Friday person, right? We should be Monday people. We're going into a world after this whole thing where I think this is going to be more important than ever. My generation, and I'm still not sure, Martin, whether you're my generation or not, the baby boomers. Are you a baby boomer? No. You're a millennial, or you're on the border somewhere.
Not really. I think I'm at the border, but I like to see myself on the millennial side.
Yeah, well, my students actually say that I'm a millennial trapped in the body of a baby boomer. And that's, I'm trying to change that. Now in quarantine, I don't think I've ever worked out so much as during this quarantine. But what I'm trying to say is that my generation, the millennials, we wanted a good job that gave us a lot of money so that we could live a good life. And money was the most important driver. The millennials are different. They don't want a good job. They want a great job. They want a job that becomes part of their life. They want to feel challenged. They want something that makes them feel good. They want to feel inspired. I think we're going to need that more than ever before when we come out of this. So I would encourage our alumni and students to look more inside themselves. For years now, our society has been looking for meaning in our lives. And some people get it with a fancy watch or a fancy car or, power, control, whatever. What this has done for me in terms of this quarantine is make me realize that our meaning is going to come from within. So my advice to alumni and students is, life is 40% of our life is work. Make sure that the decisions that you make in terms of work are the smart ones. And I think that's one of the things that, we taught at IE. At IE, we made a point of teaching people some basic values, and even values like diversity. A lot of people look at it as a social value. I look at it also as an economic value, because the world is global and it's going to get more and more global. So unless we embrace diversity from an economic perspective in terms of working, not just in terms of social inclusion, but, and this is what's amazing. When my students say to me, my work group has like 6 or 7 nationalities in it. I am forced out of my comfort zone every day. That's a good thing. Our comfort zone needs to be big in the world that we're going into at a professional level. And I see our comfort zone like a muscle. You need to exercise it. Every student is witness that during the year they spent at IE, we stretched that muscle more than they could ever imagine. And they've gone home as alumni and come back and said, yes, what I gained at IE from that perspective was amazing. Well, that mindset, that way of looking at the world is going to be more necessary than ever before as we go into post-corona world. So my advice to students and alumni is take that muscle and stretch it every day. You know, you got to get comfortable with the uncomfortable.
Paris, thank you so much for all your time and for giving such wonderful advice. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. See you soon.
See you. Bye-bye.